to compensate for a change in in our attorney's, schedule. We will keep the times the same. So the public comment component, and when we come back, after, the executive session to meet with our attorney, we will come back in. We will move right to the bond documents and the update. And we will then move from there to public comments. And if everything goes according to Hoyle, we should end up at public comments at approximately the same time we would have. It's just that the other business will be shifted. Could that make sense to folks?
Yeah, right. Would you like to make, me to make the motion for the executive session? So,
And the adjustment.
yes, also move that we make the adjustments to the agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
So, I move that we find that there's need for an executive session for the purpose of confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the board pursuant to 1 VSA 313 F3, and that we go into said executive session.
Second.
So there is a motion and a second to go into executive session as delineated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Well, we'll do that and we'll be right back. We're gonna take the short.
Yeah, I'm still up getting one of that. My friend, Todd said, say you're getting that. Are you invited? I'm like, getting all of this. I know, it's a person, you know, the whole thing. First is essentially all your essentials and. Right. Okay, I'm gonna give you a tour here, are you ready? Yes, but for the kids to do it for you, yeah. They're all gonna get it, and then you can live it up. And that's what, and then they have to already once like they live there. So they're running, so they'll have just like four, running, so I. Yeah, that was looking for the start, you don't have to, but now I was going to stuff, but so they can design.
Okay. So we will get back on track. And first, um,
Fell back into order.
I'd like to resume the board meeting at 5:57, coming out of executive session. We didn't do that time. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. So I'd like to start, in order to keep our guests, moving. Is the bond committee update, and then any questions about the signing of the documents. So if you would like.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
I'll keep short. Hi, everybody, it's Sarah Campbell, White River Junction. I'm the chair of the steering committee working on the RFP for the bond. We've met 3 times. We have a really robust working draft. We have 2 more weeks of comment session within inside our committee with the goal of presenting a final draft on the 29th of July. We also have the 30th set aside if we need to do some cleanup work, and then presenting it to the board at the first meeting, which will be your retreat. Our goal is to have it published by the 3rd week of August, and we're looking at an 8-week time frame with question response for RFPs that we do in early October. Questions? No. Great. Well, these are on.
So Jacob, if you would do an explanation of the docs that we need to sign for the bond bank.
Okay, so there's a few documents that our bond attorney Eli sent over that have to be signed by the board. So it's signed by a few people, the treasurer, the board, and then the clerk. And then he will file this with the bond bank, which is the actual filing of the bond, which will then go down for the closing down at Boston.
And what's the current rate? Recall it. I know it dropped again, right?
I'm not sure about what the current rates are these days. Usually we get those updates at the VASBO meetings with Michael from the bond bank, but obviously we're in the summer, so we're not getting as much information.
The tool chair is the only one that's. Okay, great. And then my treasurer and then.
So the next item would be consent agenda. And the minutes, you know, we will move to the 14th, meeting on the 14th. They didn't make the packet, so we will move those forward. As far as appointments, and retirements, the formal piece today would be the appointment of the interim superintendent, which would be Katie Sutton, and the retirement of our past superintendent, Tom Balls. Those are the two items under the consent agenda. And that was the primary purpose for the meeting, you know, today, was to formalize those two pieces. And we do that at each meeting, and that's why we call it a special meeting, to do that. So.
All right, as usual, I move that we approve the consent agenda. And I can't say with our thanks to those joining the community, since you've been here for quite some time, but congratulations and welcome to the new position. And our thanks to those who are
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. So that brings us to public comment. I'm sorry, we, a little bit behind, but we're here. Depending, how many people are gonna speak, just so we have an idea about the time.
There's a few, there's two hands right now in the Zoom world.
Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay. See, if we had a number of people, what we would have done was went with a timed response, you know, like most boards and entities, commissions and stuff do. But let's try to keep it reasonable, like around 3 minutes or so. Thank you.
Sit here. Yes. Linda Satterley, Hartford taxpayer, Hartford parent, Hartford school employee, and for this next school year, Hartford Union president. So over the past couple of weeks, I've been approached by a lot of people with a lot of concerns and questions, many of which I did not have answers to. So I've kind of taken their thoughts and created this statement. It is not an official statement from the union. It is just a statement from me. I will address this to Mr. Christie as it is his signature on the documents related to the situation. Considering budget cuts and property tax increases, do you feel it was professionally appropriate and fiscally responsible of you to make the decision to accept Mr. DeBalsi's offer of retirement and provide him with a severance package in excess of $200,000? Or should we consider the flip side of this very expensive coin? As some people have pointed out, was this a buyout of Mr. DeBalsi's contract based on actions or inactions that made this the preferred alternative? And if so, if it was better for the district for Mr. DeBalsi to not finish his contract, why then did you not consider calling a vote of no confidence, which would have at least let the shareholders of Hartford, the taxpayers, the parents, and the school employees know that the situation was merited?
Our general response, you know, will be the personnel issues component of that. We are not going to discuss in public because we are bound by law not to. discuss our employees, personnel, As far as the other, consideration, it is very normal, that a offer to a long-serving or long-time serving, employee of the district, especially at the top chair, being the superintendent, is remunerated. And in balancing the last year of the contract and the, that 11 plus years of service, it was normal to make that call. Now you're gonna ask, because there's always a second question, where are we going to find that? And one of the interesting things, in this situation, is that I'm not gonna put this on our business manager to explain, the detail. But when you look at the fact that we would have had that salary, well, actually, it's in the budget. And the interim had an existing contract. We're doing the difference between the offer to her. And so that the bottom line on those two parts of the discussion comes out of about 40,000 between the two, roughly. And then as far as covering the responsibilities with the other positions and moving, folks, the other curriculum coordinator is requesting a reduced time. So she's gonna pick up, her salary is budgeted for the whole year, but she's got a request in to help out with the pieces that aren't being done. Is that reasonable? And so the funds are actually there, to do the work. Okay, and that's the primary part of the decision, to keep the district moving, forward. And nothing stops in school life. So everything has to be made. So that's how we came up to that point. Next.
I'm a big fan and I do a lot in this district. And my big challenge is that I'm really disappointed that we did this badly in the fall, because now we're getting nothing for our $210,000. And we really had an opportunity to add a complex layer and have someone who could help with a transition period. And so I'm not asking for any answers. I'm really disappointed that we blew an enormous opportunity to get something for our money where I don't feel like we're getting.
Looks like we have Jeff in the Zoom world. Did you unmute Jeff?
Hi. I'd like to know who made the decision to pay Mr. DeBalsi a year's salary upon his resignation. And I also feel that it is illegal to overturn the will of the people who voted against paying two superintendents' salary in March. We're not a corporation where golden parachutes are given. There's no precedent of having ever given a superintendent such a huge amount of money. The Valley News also reported that it's very rare in the state to have that happen. So who is to blame for this? And besides, this money would be much better used to hire back teachers. Get an answer?
Well, as we stated in the press release, there was a year left in Tom's contract. And when he made the decision to retire at the end of the year, it was decided that we could. And when we looked at the funding and where we were in that position, it made sense. And as far as precedent around the state, do a little fact checking, because it does happen a lot more than, you realize. And that is a fact, because I know board chairs around the state and other school boards that have done similar. Okay, but none of them have had a superintendent with the longevity that we have. And that's part of the rarity of it, is the longevity of the superintendent. Right now, the average superintendent, lasts anywhere from 18 months, to 3 years. That's the average, the national average of a superintendent. So to have a superintendent, go 15 years, that in itself, speaks volumes.
Yes, but he's been nicely compensated throughout his term. Every year you gave him a bonus. I was on the board. I know about those bonuses. And it was only the select board who evaluated him, and every year he got a bonus. Nobody else was incorporated in the evaluation. No principals, no teachers, no students. Every year he got a bonus. His accomplishments, except for fixing up the campus school-wise, or the results of our kids are getting are very poor compared to other schools. So I would think you would weigh that in your decision before you hand out $200,000 that could be better used to educate our children.
Thank you.
Looks like we have Jerry. Jerry, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, Jerry. You can hear it.
This is Jerry Williams from Wilder, Vermont, and I have asked for transparency and communication from my school board for about 10 years. I heard nothing from anyone from the board or the superintendent about this huge decision that affects all of us. We just got our tax bills with the 14% increase from the state. We voted the budget yes. We took out many dollars that would go to direct instruction for children. And And we've had, we're not talking about the state, we're talking about Hartford, Vermont, and the people in Hartford, Vermont that have to live with this decision, which is us. I don't care about what's happening in the rest of the state. I care about what's happening in my town. In my town, we've had longevity of superintendents for many, many, many years. Not one of them ever received a golden handshake. Not one. And yes, I understand about the turnover in the state. I get that, but that's not the reason to pay out $210,000. And we need to know as citizens from you in writing, what exactly is the cost of this buyout? So the $210,000 is the salary. What is the cost of the benefits and what are they? What is the cost of the vacation pay? How many days at what cost? What is the cost of the sick days? How many days and at what cost? And how on earth can you possibly justify paying for a cell phone and internet for somebody that you're paying $210,000 to do nothing? You are accountable to us, and I'm going to tell you this time we've had it. And you need to be starting to give information. And if you're not prepared to give it tonight, then we want on the next agenda time for the citizens and for you to discuss this decision with us. We deserve to know the financial decision, the exact number of dollars, and how that would have impacted our children. Our children are number one. This man has done some work for us over the past 13 years. Good. But we're now paying the second superintendent that you tried to slide through earlier in the budget, and it didn't work then, so you tried a new thing. So now we're paying for a superintendent that isn't retired, but actually is bought out. And now we have to pay for an inexperienced temporary one. That is not good decision making. I am very willing to sit on the next search committee for a superintendent. I have a lot of experience. I've been on superintendent search committees before, and I'm very willing to volunteer for that. But I'm not willing for us to continually have to find out information from our representatives in the newspaper. And most people today do not subscribe to newspapers. So why we didn't have a bulletin, a newsletter, a letter, or something from the chairman of our board to the citizens of this town is irresponsible. So I want you to think. I've been up the China to man. I've tried to do it the best way. This isn't working. You're not hearing. We want information. I didn't hear the answer to the question before. What was the process? Who decided this? Which members of the board just voted yes for this? I want to know your names. And then I want to talk to you about why. I deserve that. And so does every other person in this town. Who decided this? Who voted yes? Who voted no? When was it decided? Where are the minutes? I searched for hours last night trying to find minutes. There are no minutes. That's against the law. 5 days after this meeting happened, wherever it happened, whenever it happened, whoever was there, is not public knowledge. Where is it?
Your point's well taken, Jerry. As far as the process, the separation agreement, was done in private with the board chair and our attorney and Tom's attorney and Tom. We knew what the parameters were from the board as far as the overall goal. and it was agreed upon by
So
the board.
where's the record?
There is no record because
That's
it's done,
exactly what we need to know. Thank you.
okay, it was done in confidential session.
No,
Request,
there has to be a public meeting to go into that session. There has to be a vote and there has to be a public warned meeting. Where is that?
not for the retirement component, because it was a personnel matter that was involved in that as well. And
I get
it
that.
was the
I
request,
understand that, but I also understand the law. And the law is that meetings have to be warned and executive meetings have to be warned as well. And people have to vote to go into that session and they have to discuss whatever they're going to do and they have to come out of that session and they have to either take a motion or not. Where is that?
and as you know, just like with teacher negotiations and other salary negotiations, those meetings are not done in public.
I understand that. But you did a buyout with our money in secret and you never told us. You cut programs for our kids. You cut extracurricular. You cut supplies for our teachers. You cut sports programs for one person's salary. And you can't stand there and say, this is our process. This is who did it. This is who voted yes. And this is who voted no. We know, we have the right to know that. And yes, we understand the personnel part of it, but there's a part here that is undercover that is wrong.
Gary, what we can do for a response, is share with you what we can. There are things we can't. And things, okay?
But
And that's,
we deserve to know exactly the number of dollars that this is costing us. You
well,
can
the
tell
number
us
of
that.
dollars- wait, the number of dollars was documented in the paper because that was shared.
But that's not all of it. I want to know the bottom line number. That's what I want to know.
That was the total that was there.
No. The total of what? What did that include?
All of the points that you mentioned that came out in the paper.
But it's not the newspaper. It is your responsibility as members of the board of directors of our town that we elected.
Until it was requested.
Okay, I will request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Until it was requested and released to the Valley News, the separation agreement. Okay.
I will request and we will find out and I will publish everything I find out to the public.
And you're welcome to. And if the information is there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We still didn't find out though who made the decision.
It was a board decision.
So where are the votes?
We didn't do a hand count. We agreed unanimously to move forward.
Where's the record?
It was technically,
Well, if you agreed unanimously, does that then mean that you voted? So every single board member here voted yes for this proposal. You're all taking responsibility for that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I have personally no problem at all taking responsibility for it.
Nora.
So I can call on every single one of my board members and ask them privately what exactly how they voted and why.
I agreed with the settlement as and I should settlement's the right word, but the terms under which we would do the resignation.
This isn't a resignation, this is a buyout, and let's call it what it is.
It was a resignation. That's exactly what it was.
We don't pay people to resign unless, I don't know, do you pay your teachers when they resign? How many teachers in that recognition of teachers in June, how many of them got a bonus?
this technically was a retirement separation agreement.
But why separation? See, you have to read carefully your words because they're carefully crafted. I read them carefully. Amicable departure. That's not retirement. In the best interest of all. That's not retirement. Retirement is, I've decided that I'm going to leave my career. And I decided I would do it a year early because I'm going to look for another job doing something else. Amicable departure with the best interest of all. You have to really read that crafted words because that is not retirement. We both agreed to get rid of you. And we'll pay this much to do it. You've let us down. And now the cost of what you've done and that you haven't been upfront to the citizens of the town about it is a cost that you will pay down the road. So for 60 years, I've lived here and we voted every single school budget in with a yes and hardly any questions. That will probably change. For 60 years, we've sat and watched you and trusted people on our board. I don't trust my board. And I'm sorry to say that, I'm an educator. There's nobody that wants better education in this town for their kids than me. And I've had half of the town as kids myself. But I'm very disappointed. And I think that you owe us a huge apology for spending this amount of money, especially this year, without some kind of public something and without telling us, hiding behind these words. Amicable departure, and everyone feels wonderful about it. So you owe us an apology and you owe us a whole lot of information. So we'll be looking for it. Thank you.
We have Lonnie next.
Yeah, you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, Laney Collins here. So I'm going to read right from 1 VSA 312. It states right here that when your minutes shall be taken of all public bodies, the minutes shall cover all topics and motions that arise of the meeting and give a true indication of the business of meetings. Minutes shall include at least the following minimal information: all motions, proposals, and resolutions made, offered, and considered, and what disposition is made of same. We're lacking that information here to back up what Jerry's saying. The other problem that I see with this whole thing is that there were innumerable cuts to programs at the schools this last year, cuts to both the athletic budget and cuts to programs that directly affect the student learners within the school system. And yet you found money. If you say there was found money in the budget to be able to pay for this, for Mr. DeBalzi's departure, how is it that money was not available to pay for these programs that were cut, that we could reinstate for some of these kids to have those again? This is the problem that myself, as well as many other individuals in the community, need to have addressed because of all the cuts that were made, and we're still spending money. And the idea of spending money on a cell phone and for a person that's no longer working for us, I'm sorry, this is one that you guys have dropped the ball on in numbers of ways. The biggest thing is that you cut programs that directly affect the kids in schools, the kids' learning abilities, the ability to learn, and you've replaced it with salary for someone that is doing nothing for us for a year. And that is the problem that we have here. But I still agree with Jerry wholeheartedly that directly as 1 VSA 312, there damn well better be some minutes available of the meeting that you took place. You can have a discussion in executive session, but any votes need to be done in a public forum. Thank you.
Not sure who this is, but we have iPad. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Anything else?
Jeremy Warner, Warrior Junction, former student, new resident. Is there any clarification as to the terms of the separation? So far, we've heard settlement from Mr. Merrill. We've heard amicable separation. We've heard resignation. We've heard retirement. These are all very different things. I'm just wondering if we could get a formal statement as to which one of those it actually is. It was retired. Okay. Thank you.
There was made mention that the meeting that,
Who are you?
I'm sorry, City Woods, West Hartford. There was mention that you were acting on behalf of the board and the board had a goal that you would all agree to. So I'd be curious to hear a description of what that goal was. I'm interested in the total cost of the package. As Jerry sort of outlined, there were 4 different components to it. And what has been talked about is the $209,000, but there's 3 other components to it, including health insurance for the school year. I wonder why the Valley News was the impetus to get this out to the public. I think it should have come from the board and not been a request on by the paper of the board before we learned about it. And I am a little troubled that one of the, I won't say justification, but one of the reasons you gave why the settlement was completed was because the money was in the budget.
No. It was there. And it was determined after the decision, that there was a chicken and an egg. Yeah. It is there, it exists, the amounts that we talked about this evening. And the decision wasn't about that. It was about the separation, via retirement.
Okay, and research is good, and I think some people will probably take you up on that. There was a citation, I believe, in the same article that there was a buyout of another, or a settlement, whatever you want to call it, of a superintendent locally, and the settlement was something along the lines of $50,000 to $60,000. The details of that person's tenure there and all that were not known, so that's unknown. I also have to mention that, we're down a superintendent and have an interim superintendent who's being pulled from another full-time position. So really, we have a new superintendent or an interim superintendent, but we've also lost a full-time person in a curriculum, an important curriculum position.
Looks like we have Mark's iPhone.
One second, please. Okay. So I'm also a citizen of Hartford here, and I just have to say thank you, first and foremost, to everything that Jerry said. I don't work in the district, but my name is Mark. And my last name is Servinski. It is C as in Charlie, ERVINSKI. And I'll go on record as saying I support everything that Jerry said. And while I don't work for the district, I know plenty of people who do. And $210,000 could pay for 7 or 8 paraprofessionals that are sorely needed in many of our schools. I have a child with developmental disability who requires these services. And you're telling me that we're going to pay $210,000 to someone who's going to do nothing for our children. Our students deserve direct support. This payment benefits nobody but Tom DeBalsi. You're directly harming our children by allowing this to continue, and you all need to be accountable for it. And I hope that many other people decide to run for the school board this next year, other than the people that are currently on it. And I've voted for some of you in the past. I have to say that that won't be happening again. Thank you. I'll cede any other time I have.
Tom and Arthur, just see what they're saying.
Like we have iPad again.
Hi, I work for the district and have seen Mr. DeBalsi several times in the schools with smiling faces, saying hi to kids. And if he is that loving and supporting to kids, you would think that he would want that 210,000 plus $1,000 that he is getting this year to go to the salary of people who are going to be helping these kids. There are so many kids who need the extra support, who need the extra help. We need that love and support. And just, it is making me feel that his smile was almost falsified. If he is wanting this money to go to himself versus supporting the kids of this district.
So ma'am, who are you? We didn't see your name. Excuse me?
Yep, my first name is Janelle, Janelle.
Your last name?
Yep, it's Cervinski, Cervinski.
Thank you.
And I have loved talking to Tom in the past, and his smile and his, just demeanor with the kids. But this is just breaking my heart to hear what is happening right now and knowing what is happening to the support of our kiddos.
No other hands up in the Zoom world right now.
So, if there's no other comments, we'll open for public comments section.
One more. Answer slowly. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'm not gonna say anything, it upset me as I read the newspaper, because yes, I read the newspaper. That you were supporting his service and dedication for his longevity for 13 years. I get admin doesn't last long anymore. Teachers don't last any longer. The longevity of a teacher is 5 years. I've been here, I've dedicated my life and career to Hartford. I'm gonna be starting my 41st year. And when I walk out, when I finally decide to retire, I will not get anything for my sick time that I've banked, I've rebuilt, I've done everything to salvage that. You're seeing more and more teachers take their sick time. They might not have to do it, but they do it. There's no reason, there's no incentive. And when I read that he was getting sick time, vacation time, cell phone, all of these things, I thought, he's only been here for 13 years. And yet you've got teachers that have been here longer, given up, and not gotten anything. These teachers that retired this past year, they didn't get anything for their longevity. And there's a handful of us still in the district that have not retired yet. And yet, when we finally decide to go, we won't get anything. It's not in, we'll get a vote and maybe a thank you, and that's it. And I just think you're kicking your staff and in their gut again. And I think Why? Why do people stay? Hartford used to be a great district to work in. And I've said it to the negotiating team, I've said it to other staff, there's nothing to keep us here. And, you know, I love my kids. That's why I keep coming back. I don't come back for the retirement package because there isn't one. But I think you need to think about that when you're offering all of these incentives to your admin. They are doing things, but they are not in those classrooms. And I can hear what people are saying. When you're cutting programs, you're cutting staff. You didn't fill positions, but those positions were still needed. You know, and we still have not hired. Well, people don't want to come here, you know, and there's a reason. They're going other places. And I know there's a shortage. I know that, you know, but I think you just need to think about what you're offering. Because there are some upset people out in the community and they're upset with staff as well. So. Thank you.
We have two more hands up in the Zoom world. We have Jeff again.
Hi, I'd like to know why this $200,000 is not going to replace the curriculum administrator who is replacing the superintendent. Don't you need that position filled? And why wouldn't you use that money? And I'm also confused. Did Mr. DeBalzi himself ask for this settlement? Did he demand it? I'd like to know that, please. Thanks.
Now we have Heidi.
Wait,
The reason you did not get an answer, there are some things that cannot be shared under advice of counsel. And I have to stand on that. But a lot of the other things, we can address.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Hi, Heidi Due White River Junction, Vermont. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm calling in because I would like to know why Mr. Collins, Lanny Collins, is not getting a response to the violation of open meeting law VSA 213, I believe it is. 312. There have been violations to open meeting law, and this needs to be addressed or it will be handled else otherwise. So could you please tell me why Mr. Collins did not receive a response? Hello?
We will get that answer for him.
Why does it not seem like there's any transparency or communication between board members and the town residents that are paying ridiculous prices and taxes in water and sewer? Why are we not being kept in the loop? Why are we not receiving any information? Why are things being done that have a lot of discrepancies? I used to have faith in the board, but I'm actually losing it. Could someone please answer me? Hello?
Hey, Heidi.
I didn't
As
hear
I-
anything that was said.
The comment that I made about Lanny's question and the speaker, you know, previously, you know, was there are things that were involved in our discussions that were personnel matters. And those are not disclosed in open session.
I can understand and respect that board members cannot speak about employee employee relations. I understand that completely. Don't get me wrong. But when you do things in executive session, you must always return to the meeting and actually either say there was no action taken or take a vote. So I would like to know, was there a vote to move forward on the actions with Mr. DeBalzi?
Final acceptance of the agreement, was done tonight. The formal acceptance, of it, all of the preliminary negotiation, was done prior.
So explain to me, please, because obviously I'm not understanding. How could you cancel Mr. DeBalzi's contract and agree to pay him out for the remaining contract if nothing was taken action upon within a meeting, a public forum meeting? Because those are the rules and regulations to actually do this. And this is causing our town money that could have gone towards students or sports. We need good teachers. We need sports. I mean, the students are doing an excellent job, but here we have lack of transparency once again. So I would really like to have some answers, please.
We will share what we can, and legally, we will not what we can't.
So tell me, tell me, Coach, was there a vote within the open meeting to actually make any decisions on Mr. DeBalzi's contract after you returned from executive session?
Oh, it was not.
I'm sorry, I think I missed that.
Said, no, there was not.
So therefore, it's a violation of open meeting law, because even in the town, if they go into executive session, I have had to tell them this before, I believe it was last year. Once you come out of executive session, you cannot just go home and not go back to your meeting. You must clarify whether there's action taken, and if there's action taken, a vote must be given within open session. I guess I'm going to have to follow up on that. I hate to do it, but someone needs to keep you guys in line.
As we stated in the minutes, there was no action taken on the June 12th meeting. There was discussion, of personnel matters that did occur, during that meeting. And they were very specific and broad and subject to personnel related issues.
I just
And
want
that's-
I would just like to have one person answer this for me, please. When did you guys decide to cancel Mr. DeBalzi's contract then?
Never.
In executive session?
It was
No, we
never
did not.
canceled.
It was
Mr. DeBalzi retired.
So if he retired, why are we paying him out, please? He broke
Because-
his contract, not we didn't break his contract. He broke his contract then if he decided to retire.
Because the board thought that ending Mr. Balzi's relationship with the district in this way was best. In light of all of the circumstances around his extended tenure here.
So if you ended his contract after he requested early retirement, then he didn't retire. You can't mince the words and not mean something here. You either let his contract be broken paid him out, or he blatantly retired and is actually not open to being paid out for another year, where that money could have paid for teaching salaries or sports. I believe the residents had stated last spring, or last fall, that we were not interested in paying out 2 superintendents, but here we go again. Am I going to get a response at all from anybody?
You're mischaracterizing what is happening. We know, we only have a single superintendent. One resigned, one has stepped forward.
We're paying 2 though.
We are paying monies as part of one superintendent resigning. And we are paying a salary to the person who's stepping up, yes.
Going from 2 people working to 1, correct?
Yes, that's what happens when somebody resigns.
Gotcha. They don't always get paid.
That is true.
So the question, was Mr. Devalsi's council present when you made this decision to grant him his salary?
So Mr.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So he had council present when the amount was agreed upon?
Yes.
As did we.
So I have to ask, if a teacher taught for 13 years and they gave you notice at this moment in time in the school year approaching that they were retiring suddenly, unexpectedly, and leaving the system without a teacher for that position, would that teacher be paid a year's salary?
Almost certainly not.
Thank you.
Is there any precedent in this district where a retiring or end of contract superintendent has been given severance? Not the. It's set an hour.
I had a question too. I was wondering, when you had the meeting with Mr. Vivaldi and his council, were there documents signed at that time? Was it agreed upon and legal documents signed at that time? Or did that happen later?
Yes, go ahead.
I have to stand up because, you know, I'm old and I've said too long already. We, the board, understand completely your feelings and how you're feeling. But we are bound legally by certain things we cannot disclose. And we understand that you want those answers, and we would love to be able to give them to you, but we cannot. Legally, we are bound. Our hands are legally bound to what we can give to you and what we cannot give to you. We've given to you everything that we are allowed to give. And I'm sorry that it sounds very unjust. And I'm sorry that there are people that are in this profession that feel very insulted by the whole situation. But we, the board, acted, deliberated, consulted with attorneys, consulted with Secretary of State. We consulted with every single person that there is available for us to consult with before we made some of these decisions.
before we, because of that, we feel we made the right decisions. This board would not be up here if we were not here for our children and your children. We are trying to do the very best that we know how, that when we are given legal counsel and we are given counsel from the Secretary of State in the state of Vermont, from the Agency of Education, that even though it seems unjust and unfair to you, we made our decisions based on what we thought was going to be the best for the children in this district. I will not apologize for the decisions we made. I will apologize to you because I know that it's a very hard thing for you to accept. Thank you.
Jeff has his hand up.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I'm confused. I thought this was an honor to give him 200,000 because you thought he did such a good job, but it sounds very contentious to me. Like he demanded it and you didn't want to give it. And you had lawyers on both sides. So we really need to know more about what's going on here. And I think right to know laws should reveal that, shouldn't they? Thanks.
You cannot discuss personnel matters even under the auspices of that type of request. You know, those details would not be disclosed. And that was, you know, one of the things that, you know, we got counsel about, both from the Secretary of State's office, you know, and our counsel.
Yeah, but so why did you say that you were giving this money? Because you felt that he had done such a good job over such a long period of time. Is that the truth? That's the main reason why you handed him $200,000?
Yes.
So you made the decision, the board made the decision that it was a good idea to hand over 200,000, take a curriculum administrator, replace the superintendent with that person, not fill the curriculum administrator position, and just waste $200,000. Your arm wasn't twisted?
Let me characterize it differently. The board did what was thought was appropriate when the superintendent requested to resign.
Well, why didn't you deny it? Right? Why didn't you use that money for it to pay to replace the curriculum administrator who now has to take over? So why did you go along with it?
Because we thought it was the best thing to do under the circumstances.
How under what circumstances? How could it be the best thing when you don't have $200,000 to pay to replace the curriculum administrator? How is that a good decision?
Jeff, you served on this board. I know you did because you served right before I joined on the board. You know that there are things that cannot be discussed, and people are turning something around to make it a bad thing. And
it is a bad thing.
Because we cannot talk about certain things, I know that's how it appears to the public.
Well, there's no rhyme or reason, and there's no good rationale for it at all. And I don't know how you're going to spin it. There's no way to spin it to make it look positive.
If Mr. DeMalzi was retiring and the board decided to reward him for his accomplishments, why a meeting with lawyers on both sides? That just doesn't make sense. Right? I'm posing as a rhetorical question.
Once again, I know it's very frustrating.
I'm not really asking the question for an answer, but as clarification, because I'm rephrasing what I believe we're all hearing, is that despite having to pay Mr. DeBalsi the money, the board feels it was worth it despite knowing the hardships it was going to cause. And I'm not asking for a discussion of personnel issues, but we do always hear about the great things he did. Then when you say we can't talk about personnel issues, our minds go to, well, then there must have been something else. There must have been a not positive issue to cause this. And I'm not asking for clarification because I understand you can't say that. But this is where my brain is taking me now. So that's just where I'm going to end on that. So I look forward to a new school year with new leadership. Thank you. And I headed on.
We have Jerry on Zoom.
I would like to respond to, I guess it was Mr. Merrill that was talking about the process that you went through. And that's, of course, the first that we've heard anything about that. But one of the things I would like for you all to hear, although it's been said many times tonight and many other nights, I hope you will go home tonight and think about your job and who hires you.
The us. And so you talk to this council, and you talk to Mr. DeBalsi, and you talk to the Secretary of State. I'm wondering why. Something's fishy if you got to talk to the Secretary of State. But there was one audience that you seem to have missed. And that would be us, the taxpayers, the community that put you in the seats to represent us with good intentions. And I don't doubt your intentions, I doubt your decision.
What democracy is about, that.
And you're wiggling around when people ask you direct questions, we don't get direct answers. Now we want direct answers. That's what transparency means. Tell us what happened. When did you meet? How often did you meet? Where did you meet? How come you weren't posting those meetings for the public to know? And how in the world did you think you were going to pull this off and call it retirement when you know in your hearts it isn't? And I know there's things you can't talk about in terms of personnel. I get that. But the reason we're paying $210,000 plus is because of some deal with the personnel. And that's why we're upset, because there's not transparency. So if you want to be trusted as our board, you got to let us know what's going on. And I don't know how else to tell you that. I've tried and tried and tried. And you pretend we don't exist until you want the budget passed. So listen to us. Tell us what's going on. And you don't have to, we understand you can't tell us personnel issues, but we also understand there's a reason this is not a retirement. And you keep calling it that, and you can call it that if you want to, but you have not paid any superintendent before this to retire, and you've not paid a single teacher or a paraprofessional or a custodian or a sports athletic director a dime to retire. So you better start thinking about that, because you set a precedent, and good for you. Every other administrator in that administrator group, well, they should get this too. The precedent is set. So if you don't learn anything else tonight, you've made a decision that has upset the citizens of this town because it's irresponsible financially. And maybe you had to do it because you had to do it because of something that we don't know and we're never going to know. But we know something's up. And you need to open your hearts and your eyes and your ears and your pencils and your phones and talk to the people in the town. We want to know what's going on in our schools. I got a wonderful thing yesterday from Lebanon in the middle of the summer about a kid who had she won a great little honor. And here's in the middle of the summer on a one-page thing. We get nothing about our kids. We don't know when the music concert is at the school up the street. We don't have a calendar that tells us school events. We don't have anything that encourages our community to be involved in our schools. If anything, they're pushed out of the schools because there's no information. We don't know. You've got people that have a lot of skills that are willing to help a lot of kids free. But you got to let us know, and you got to open the doors up, and you got to, you got to look at what you have, the talent in the community. I just said, I'm willing to be on the search committee. I've been to the superintendent's office 4 times to say last spring. So I'm interested in being on the search committee for the superintendent. When is that going to happen? How is it going to happen? Nobody there could answer the question. Not one person. They finally said, oh, well, you can call Roy Hathorn. I have no idea who Roy Hathorn even is and why he would even be the person I'd call. So that's what I mean about communications. It's every day letting people know what's going on in their schools, being proud. We want to be proud of our schools. We want to know when our kids do good things. We want those kids coming from those state scholarships. I mean, how many state scholarships did we take in Hartford this year? Probably 10. Were they ever invited to the school board for 15 minutes to say thank you? Let me give you a little certificate. We are so proud of you kids. Invite those mamas and daddies and grandpas and neighbors and friends. You will have your school board meeting filled, and you will have people going home with free PR. 15 minutes. And I know all about your governing, but that governing process that you think is so wonderful shuts out the public because it's not friendly. It uses language that we don't use, and it's boring. So I know it works for you, but you can use that in your process, but open the doors to the public that you serve and find every possible way to invite those principals of those schools every meeting. Let them tell you what's going on in their schools. 10 minutes, one every week or every meeting. So people are upset about this money. They're upset because you don't let people know. So you met with the whole world, with the council. Why? Why would you meet with your council when somebody's retiring? You met with the Secretary of State. Why? You had all these meetings, but none of them were warned. So nobody in the public knew a darn thing that was going on with this whole process until there was a little press release in the Valley News. And most of us don't even get the Valley News. So I suggest that you start thinking about how do we open the doors to our schools and to our board meetings, and how do we genuinely not pay people off, but how do we absolutely look at every possible way to honor our kids and to let the people in our town know. If you had a little program and you gave away this, when you did your little plays at the high school, give the seniors free tickets. That's free PR. Look what my board did for me. We don't even have a schedule of sports. I have no idea. I have no idea about any sports or music events or anything. And I know there's great things going on because I hear about them later, but I don't hear about them before. I would go. So transparency, communication is important, and I hope that this time you heard it.
Jerry, can I, so this is Garrett on the board, can I just talk to the communication piece that I keep hearing? So for the last couple of months, I've been working on a newsletter that would be district-wide. And my hope is to send out that first one before the school year starts. That would include a lot of the information that you're talking about, as well as information from every school. So I just wanted to let you know that that's a big theme that I hear and have heard, and that we're working on that.
I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And I truly mean that, because I invested in my schools that I don't know anything about them. I would like, before we leave, to see a show of hands of my board members that voted for this.
We all just voted right now in front of you. That's what happened when we approved the consent agenda. That's it. We actually did it right now.
But Jerry, you know, and not to, you know, we've been working to try to figure out this whole communication, you know, piece to do it better. And how can you get participation? You know, we'd have, and you're right, when we did the awards and student activities pieces that Nancy took the lead on, you know, as our board clerk, you know, she communicated with the different principals and got, you know, those kids that were doing unique things. And we used that as the opening to the meeting. And like you said, I mean, we had a full house, you know, any time we did that. You know, the parents came, the kids came, you know, usually a teacher or two. And so it's hard to keep, you know, that going, and it's hard to figure out, you know, the balance. And I think, you know, folks like yourself that are willing to help, we're always happy to have you be engaged. If you look at the bond project, you look at the Wilder School project, you look at the other initiatives that we've done where we've had community engagement, they were always successful.
Well, of course.
Needless to say, when you look at the press release that we did put out, you know, it had the makeup of the future search committee. You know, the number of parents, the number of teachers, number of administrators are all represented, and each individual group, such as the Teachers Association, you know, they'll select their members to sit on it. Even the SOS, the superintendent's office, they'll select a representative committee. The principals will select, you know, their representative to that committee. You know, so it will be.
So who selects for the community?
Well, that's up to you guys. You know, if somebody shows up, you know, and I mean, if there's a whole gang of people, I guess we're gonna have to figure out how to select that number, because you know as well as we do, it can't be a mass group, you know.
Right.
The average size of a committee, you know, and you know that piece. You know, we're not gonna, you know, like say this person can and that person can't. You know, we're hoping that people volunteer, and those are the people they'll select from within themselves.
I understand that, but you say that you're going to have 2 community members, but you don't seem to have a process for for the community to know what that is. How do you, and that's what I was talking about before, you know, when I went to the superintendent's office several times last spring when they were talking about a search committee, and I asked and nobody knew. That's when they told me about Rohathog. I'm asking you, so you have I understand you've got somebody from the superintendent's office, you've got the teachers represent, all those things. It says that you have community members. So you must have a process for community members, A, to know that there's an option to, you know, for that to happen, and B, to have some way to let people know and select from that.
Jerry, when we're ready to do that, we will communicate it. And one of the ways we will communicate it is through the newsletter and other options.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the Valley News will use those tools to get the word out.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
So Crystal and Valley News, I'm just requesting, can the board tell us the monetary value of Mr. DeValsi's health insurance package for this year?
That was included in that 200.
So
that was not just salary.
That was,
the severance agreement says 210,000 plus health insurance. That implies that's above and beyond.
No, it's included in that number. That is a fact.
I'm sure he was not getting paid $210,000 as his salary.
You know, people would be lining up to be superintendent. The average range is, you know, the salary, you know, across, you know, the state is anywhere from, you know, 150, depending on the size of the district, you know, upwards. In some cases, you get to a Burlington.
What was his salary? What was his salary?
It was 167.
167.
And the interim superintendent is
160.
60. Thank you.
So, you know, and when you look across the state, what you see is depending on the size of the district, you know, you'll see that, you know, it moves accordingly. You know, you figure you know, we have 438 employees. On a school board up north, they have 867. You know, so see just in that exponential, and where we have 1,800 roughly in our census, you know, so far, students, they have 3,500 students. So, you know, it's relative.
I see Jeff has his hand up. Jeff, do you have another question or is your hand just up from the last time?
It was just still up, sorry.
For the hands up in Zoom.
I'd like to move that we adjourn. We did run out of people. Their people are departing. For a second.
A second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.